Some of you ask me, can you share your top 10 best games of all time? Okay, and that is so difficult to do. How can I make a top 10 that I am not going to change tomorrow? Okay, that I'm not gonna have in the description. Hey, you know what? I changed my mind. Let's change this number two. It's very difficult. Okay, but I did it, and I'm not changing my top 10. At least not tomorrow. But let me know, what are your favorite games? So here's my list. You can see it here. Okay? Number 1, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Okay? And this is a solid number 1. I am not changing that anytime soon. And the reason is, in my opinion, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is the closest we've ever been to a flawless game, an absolutely perfect games. So what is the problem with Sekiro? Unfortunately, From Software is so incompetent when it comes to the engine, the graphics, just the way the game performed. How can you have this amazing masterpieces? You will see my top 10 is full of From Software games, so I am a huge fan of their work. But how can you have these amazing games capped to 60 frames per second? It doesn't make any sense, man. It is just the only defect, in my opinion, that Sekiro Shadows Die Twice has. Is absolutely mind-bending that they are still, even on the PC, capping their games to 60 frames per second. And I know there are some mods, we can uncap that on Elden Ring and all that, but I shouldn't have to do that, okay? And it sucks, okay? It is absolutely terrible. But aside from that, in my opinion, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, it is flawless, absolutely perfect. The combat system is the best ever. The parries, the way the parries work, is what makes me love that game so much. So the way you're looking at the enemy is attacking you with a sword. Then when you parry that, you see the sword, king, 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 king. I mean, the feeling of that combat system, it is unparalleled. Okay, it is just the best. And I absolutely love Sekiro. I love the difficulty, the world. I love the graphics, the way Sekiro looks. It is not the most advanced graphics, but the art style, it just looks fantastic. That game looks absolutely amazing. It plays like a dream. It has the level of difficulty that I really enjoy. It's perfect. I mean, it's as close to perfect as I've ever seen. Okay. Number 1, very solid. I'm not changing that pick anytime soon. Number 2, I am not changing that either. Elden Ring. Okay? Elden Ring is just massive and it is interesting. Okay, so it is massively interesting. What else can you expect from a game? Okay, is this a game that is gonna blow you away in so many ways? Okay, it is absolutely incredible. So the gameplay is not as good as Sekiro. Okay, if From Software makes a game like Elden Ring, but with more of a Sekiro-like combat system, that would be my number 1 for sure. But here's the problem: how can you make that work with some of the monsters that you're fighting on Elden Ring? This parry-based combat system wouldn't make a lot of sense. But I've seen it. In games that you can parry everything. Like, for example, Wulong, which is a very, very, very bad game in terms of, technically it's absolute trash. But I do like some of the combat mechanics. And in Wulong, you can parry everything. Absolutely parry everything. And I like that idea. So if From Software can figure out something like that, that combines that combat system of Sekiro with that, jaw-dropping open world and super interesting, full of secrets, and the enemy variety is just off the chart, absolutely insane. Even when they repeat some of the enemies, but they have so many that it's just absolutely incredible. I'm sure Elden Ring is number one for many, 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 many people, and it is a no-brainer. I mean, number 3, Dark Souls 1, and I think this is very solid. I'm not changing that anytime soon. Dark Souls 1 level design is a masterclass. I am 100% sure that many, many, many game developers study Dark Souls 1 because it is genius. The way that Dark Souls 1 interconnects the entire world is genius. It is an open world game that released on the PlayStation 3. Okay? It is incredible. Absolutely insane level design. And it has some secrets that are just it has never been replicated after that. I shared this video with you with the Ash Lake secret level, which is my favorite gaming experience of all time. Just that secret. You have to hit 2 hidden illusory walls to get to this level, and when you get there, you're like, and I was not supposed to see this. This looks absolutely incredible. You are amazed of what you're seeing there, and you were not supposed to see that. That feeling that there can be a secret, there can be something amazing on every corner you don't know. It's just a fantastic feeling. So the sense of discovery, the level design of Dark Souls 1, it is just unparalleled. I have the map of Dark Souls 1 in my head. I am like, okay, I'm here, I come here. It is just so memorable. Okay, that's the thing. It is so memorable. Absolutely incredible. I'm sure Dark Souls 1 is number 1 for many, many, many gamers. And I couldn't argue against that. If Dark Souls 1 is the best game of all time in your opinion, I couldn't argue with that. So now we have Dark Souls 3. So now Dark Souls 3, I might change that in the ranking. So Dark Souls 3 was the first Souls-like game that I played, actually. And the reason was, I was speaking with a friend, and he was like, man, you have to play this game. And I was like, bro, I installed Dark Souls 3, and I just tried it for a moment, and I didn't like it. I uninstalled that game. I didn't give it a chance. And he was like, no, man, you know nothing. I'm gonna get a tattoo here with Dark Souls. And he was insisting, you have to play that game. This is the best game ever. After you play this game, all the rest of the games are going to be crap. I'm like, man, okay, I'm going to install that game again and give it a chance. And I beat it, and I loved it. And the way I beat Dark Souls 3 was with a crappy LCD screen that was 720p. Like basically a very, very, very bad monitor at 30 to 40 frames per second with mouse and keyboard. And because I didn't know English, I didn't know that there was there was a button to lock to the enemy. So I was playing with the mouse, controlling the camera and fighting the enemies like that without knowing that there was a locked button, with such a terrible performance and image quality. And that's how I beat Dark Souls 3. And the reason why I like Dark Souls 3 is because it has some of the best boss battles that I've seen. I remember fighting that nameless king, which my friend told me about. I couldn't find that boss anywhere, but he told me about that, how to get there, after I beat the game, actually. And yeah, it was very, 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 very tough to beat. And I also remember I struggled a lot with, I forgot the name of this boss that has a huge axe that has electricity, and it has a huge shield, a huge axe. I forgot the name of this boss, but I was fighting with that guy like a month. Very tough. But so I love some of the boss battles in Dark Souls 3. But yeah, I might change my opinion about the placement of Dark Souls 3. And now I have to include Dark Souls 2, and I know for many Souls-like fans, Dark Souls 2 is the worst and it's not even a good game, but let me tell you why I enjoy Dark Souls 2 a lot. The reason is they are throwing more enemies at you, and that might seem like something like a cheap way to increase the difficulty of the game, but I enjoy that a lot. I enjoy that I was killing multiple enemies, and I enjoy to have these boss battles that are two bosses against you. I think two or three sometimes. I enjoy it. I enjoy Dark Souls 2 more because I was able to last longer. So because you kill more enemies, the enemies are being thrown at you with more volume. You feel like you are surviving more, if that makes sense. So I was able to play for a longer time, killing more enemies. I was very good at Dark Souls 2. I feel like Dark Souls 2 I was more successful at it, and I enjoyed a lot because of that. Multiple enemies. I didn't like at the beginning the aesthetic of the game because they changed the aesthetic. It looks more cartoonish, less serious, but I enjoy the same feeling, the same dark feeling, and the music and the same tone of the game, and I enjoy that. Multiple enemies, the boss battles, sometimes you're fighting two bosses, and the enemies variety was a little bit lacking, a little bit repetitive, some of the boss battles, but I enjoyed the game a lot, especially the DLCs. I mean, the DLCs were very good. I loved the weapons in Dark Souls 2, even when they were out very fast, especially with higher frame rates. At 60 or something, I remember that there was an issue with the frame rate, that the durability of the weapons was lower because of that, something weird. But I enjoyed the game a lot. I beat everything on Dark Souls 2, all the DLCs, everything. I really enjoy Dark Souls 2, and I know for some people it's not even a good game. Some people say, oh, that game sucks, but I really enjoy Dark Souls 2. Then after that, this is a Simu emulator, and of course I'm talking about Breath of the Wild. Okay, Zelda. Of course, Ocarina of Time might be your best Zelda game, and I play Ocarina of Time on the Nintendo 64 emulator. Actually, I played that recently, like 6 or 7 years ago when I was in Cuba, still on my PC, and I enjoy that game, but I cannot have that game on the list because it is too old. Okay, Ocarina of Time is just too old, but I understand. If you are not considering that you could play the game now, so the games that I'm mentioning here are games that I would play now. Okay, I wouldn't be able to play right now Ocarina of Time unless they do a remaster or something. So yeah, that was a fantastic game, and I beat that game. Absolutely amazing. The story, the progression, that you become, you're a kid and you become bigger, and with a sword you see like a longer progression. You see these different worlds. It is also very impressive that game was released on Nintendo 64. Very ambitious game. I enjoyed it a lot on the emulator. But of course, Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild is massive. Absolutely massive, and it has the same Elden Ring effect, that it is very big but very interesting. There are some secrets hidden. It gives you a reward. Every single corner of this game gives you something. So you feel like you are exploring, and you always get something. You always get an item, you discover a shrine, you discover something. So it is worth to explore that game. And I also have the map on my head. And also the game gives you the freedom to do whatever you want. If you just want to go straight up and fight the final boss, you can, which is something, wow. So it's just a fantastic game. I mean, I'm sure everyone would agree that Breath of the Wild is one of the best games of all time. I mean, this is no question about that. It might not be the game for you. You might feel like, oh, this game is not targeting me. This is for kids, maybe. You think that. I definitely agree. It's not, the most serious game, but it is a special game. It is a special game. You speak with someone, they tell you a rumor of a legend, of something that might happen, and then you go to that place and you're trying to figure out what happened there, and then you do. There's this dragon flying in the air that you don't know how to kill that thing, what you can do with that, if you can get something out of it. And it is so interesting. I mean, it's a very, very interesting game. Unfortunately, there's not a PC version with proper graphic fidelity, with a draw distance that's good. You don't see that popping everywhere. So yeah, on the Simu emulator, it runs very well. It runs like 120 FPS, but it's still CPU bound, so the frame rate drops. It doesn't perform very well, unfortunately. Otherwise, it would be higher on my list. If they had a proper, if the game looked better and it runs a lot better, it would be higher on my list. It would definitely be before Dark Souls 2. But it's just the limitations of playing on an emulator. I cannot rank it higher. But of course, it runs better than Dark Souls 3 and 2. All the Souls games are locked to 60 FPS. But you get what I'm saying. It is just, Dark Souls 2, you can unlock the FPS, no problem. But you get what I'm saying. It's just playing on an emulator. It's not a great experience. But it runs very well. It runs very well on the Simu emulator, and it's a fantastic game. And then, of course, GTA 5. Of course, GTA 5 is the most successful game of all time, for a good reason. So yeah, I'm not gonna. So I'm just gonna say from GTA 5, I'm gonna say I beat GTA 5 like 7 times. Okay, I don't remember any game that I've beat so many times, and I usually don't play the games that many times. And the reason I beat GTA 5 so many times is because every time I upgraded my PC or I did something on the PC, I beat GTA 5 again just to see it better. So that's why I beat it so many times. But yeah, the story is very good. The script of the game and the way the cars turn, I enjoy that a lot. The way the driving on GTA 5 is it is the best driving in my opinion. I've never played any sim racing game, any specialized racing game that feels better to me than GTA 5. I don't know why. It might be the camera. I don't know what it is, that when you're driving GTA 5, you turn and it just feels better than any other game, in my opinion. But of course, that's not the only reason why I have it on my list. It's obvious reasons. It's very, very good game. And then I have Miles Morales here, but that's not the game that I would have on the list. It will be The Amazing Spider-Man, the first one, because Miles Morales is like a DLC. But The Amazing Spider-Man, I have to include that on my top 10 because it is just the most spectacular gaming experience I ever have. The game is just spectacular all the time. It's just like the way the camera is moving, the fighting, it just works. It's a combat system that's kind of Batman-like. Oh, I think I missed Batman Arkham Knight on this list for sure. Yeah, I'm gonna include it. Batman Arkham Knight, one of my favorite games. But yeah, the way the combat works in Spider-Man works very well. So, and the scenes on the game when you're playing the story, it's just spectacular. Everyone agree that like just to have a wow experience, like you just get your brand new TV, your high-end gaming PC, you want to see the most fluid gameplay, you get a Spider-Man. It's just a no-brainer. And I play Spider-Man on my LG C1 at a 100 FPS locked with OLED Motion Pro high, and I enjoy that fluidity across the entire game. No drops whatsoever because the game has dynamic resolution scaling and DLSS at the same time. So Spider-Man was a game that I really enjoy from a performance standpoint. So the game is spectacular. It runs like a dream. It's just such a solid game. It has to be on my list for sure. So I'm going to include also Batman Arkham Knight. I didn't put it here, and I just I just thought about it. Batman Arkham Knight is one of my favorite games ever because the music, it is so spectacular. It looks absolutely incredible on a high-end gaming PC. It looks absolutely insane, and it runs well now. At the beginning, when it released, it was running like crap. But it runs very well now. So this Batmobile going through the city, the particle effects on the game, the destructions. I think that's one of the best games when it comes to you feeling like you can interact with everything in the world. Like your Batmobile goes against the wall and you see the wall breaking. You fire your Batmobile's a canyon and you see things destroying and all the particle effects going crazy. I enjoy a lot the combat system with the Batmobile on Batman Arkham Knight, and the combat system just works. I mean, they invented that combat system. It just works. It is very good. The story is good. The voice actors are very good. I mean, it's a very solid game. It has to be on my list for sure. Then I am also going to include Kina. Okay, Kina. This developers, Ember Labs, this was their first big game, and they knocked it out of the park. I mean, it's a Souls-like game. The only thing I don't like is that it has difficulty levels. I don't like that because that usually means that when you play it on the max difficulty, it's not well balanced, and you can get stuck, and it just makes the enemies more like you can hit the enemies more, but their movements are not changing that much. So I don't like to have a game with difficulty levels. But aside from that, I think that this game they knocked it out of the park. The combat system is great. You have the arrows, you have to pay attention to the enemy a little bit, learn the movements of the bosses and what you have to do. You dodge, you have parries, kind of a parry system that works very well too. So the combat system of Kina is very good. The game looks very nice too. The animations of the game, it's just an Unreal Engine 4 game, but it looks very well, and it runs very well after they updated the game with DLSS. At the beginning, without DLSS, it didn't run that well, but with DLSS, it looks very good. It runs very well, and I absolutely love that game. So it has to be on my list. The boss battles are not epic or anything like that. In terms of the gameplay, it's just very solid. It's just very good gameplay, but it's not like you're gonna see the best boss battles or anything like that, or the best enemy. The enemy variety is very short. I mean, it's almost the same enemies across the entire game, but it just works, and it's a beautiful game, Souls-like. It has a nice story. Story is there. Is a good story. But yeah, overall, I enjoy that game a lot. It has to be on my list for sure. I might change the placement. It might be number 10, number 9, but it has to be there. Okay. So now the other game that has to be there is this one, High on Life. Okay, this is High on Life. I am not a huge fan of first-person shooters, but High on Life is the funniest game I've ever played. I laugh so much with High on Life, and not because they are cursing, okay, because they are cursing all the time, but it's not because of that I am laughing. The sense of humor of the game is absolutely amazing. I was laughing all the way, and I've never played any game that made me laugh so much. So it was a blast. High on Life is highly recommended. It doesn't run very well. Actually, it runs poorly. It looks nice. It's a cartoonish game. It looks very nice. You have these weapons that are talking to you all the time. The dialogues are so funny. It is just a funny story. You have the aliens discover that humans are actually something very good to smoke and get high on it on them. So there's these monsters that they smoke humans, and they are like, people use them. So aliens use them to get high. So they are basically getting high with humans, and because of that they invade Earth, and they get all the humans for as cigarettes, basically, as drugs. So yeah, very funny story. The dialogues and the gameplay works. The gameplay is very nice. You have different weapons that they fire at a different speed. You have like a pistol, you get like a machine gun, you get like more powerful weapons later. You get like a shotgun, and each weapon has a personality, and they are speaking with you all the time while you're fighting, while you're going through the story. The weapons are speaking with you because the weapons are aliens too. So it is such a great funny game. I have to include it. I had a blast playing that game, and this was one of those games that I couldn't stop playing because I was having a great time. And now, Thymesia. This game is not on it's not on the list. Okay, I cannot include this game on the list simply because this game is too short, man. Unfortunately, that's it. That's the only reason why I don't include this game on my top 10, because it is too short. If this game was longer, I would definitely include it on my list, because this is one of the best, if not the best, gameplay ever. Okay, this game rivals Sekiro, and it's actually taking inspiration from Sekiro. Let me increase the resolution here so you see how it looks. It's taking inspiration from Sekiro. The combat system is absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. It's parry based, and it's just so fluid. It works so well, but the game is too short. Too short. So yeah, I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to show you the boss battle and spoil the game, but highly recommend it. If you're a Souls fan, especially if you like Sekiro, you have to play this game, Thymesia. It is always going to be, for me, it's always going to be an honorable mention on my top 10, for sure. And I am 100% looking forward to a part 2. Because if they can improve this game and make it bigger, maybe a better, more intricate level design, I mean, that would be a masterpiece. I mean, this game, the combat system, they just knocked it out of the park. It's the best. I mean, I've never seen any game better than this in terms of the combat system. Sekiro is the only game that can, you might think is better than this, but I would argue that this game is actually better than Sekiro. I think it is better than Sekiro, but the problem is too short. And graphically, the game is not impressive or anything like that, but you can see here, these are not ray trace reflections, but you can see that the reflections don't disappear. So these are not screen space reflections. This is probably what they call like a cube map or something like that. It is always, you see, even if you don't see this object on screen, you can still see the reflection here. So the game looks okay. It looks good. It performs very well. And the most important thing is the combat system. It just works. It's very, very, very solid combat system. Very difficult. Very, very difficult. This is probably more difficult than any of those games that I share with you. This is probably the most difficult game that I've ever played. But it is very rewarding. It works very well. So yeah, those are my top 10. I think I gave you 12 with this one. So I gave you 11 including Barman, Arkham Knight, and 12 with this honorable mention. Let me know, what are your favorite games? Give me your top 5, top 10. Maybe you cannot tell the order, but tell me which are the best. Maybe I am missing something. Of course, I haven't been able to play Bloodborne. I don't have a PS4. I don't have a PS5. I have to wait until the game comes to the PC. I was playing Demon Souls, but I don't feel like I played enough because I stopped playing Demon Souls. I was playing it on RPCX3 on the PC, and I stopped playing it when I saw that they announced the remake. Okay, because I know that Demon Souls remake is gonna come to the PC, so I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna beat the game on the remake instead. So I cannot include Demon Souls, but I don't think I'm going to have Demon Souls on the list because it was not. It was too basic. I mean, similar to Dark Souls 1 in terms of the combat, but I don't feel like I'm gonna have it very high on the list because the level design is not as deep. The boss battles are not as good as far as I played, but I might change my mind with a remake. But yeah, let me know. What are your favorite games? And if you have any questions.